What is up, you guys? Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm gonna show you guys all of these plant-based meat options that are hitting the stores nowadays. Nowadays it's easier than ever to go plant-based. This video is aimed at my non-vegan friends. I can't just sit here and tell you guys not to eat meat and not show you guys that there are alternatives out there. So without further ado, let's get started. So I heard somewhere that it takes 5,000 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. That's including the irrigation for the crops that they feed them, and that's including the water they drink. Also, you gotta take into consideration the manure they produce goes into the rivers, which leak out to the oceans, and they have a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico where fish are just dying from all this sewage leaking into the ocean. So I also heard somewhere that if you go meatless for 2 days out of the week, you can drastically reduce your impact to the environment.
And this is due to cows releasing methane every time they belch. The livestock industry actually produces more greenhouse gases than the whole transportation sector.
So these plant-based meat alternatives are usually for people transitioning or curious about a plant-based lifestyle. There are two things you need to look for when shopping for these meats. You need to look for the sodium content, because a lot of these do contain a lot of sodium, which is obviously bad for your blood pressure. And you need to look that they don't have saturated fat. Saturated fats are bad for your cholesterol. Your LDL levels rise if you eat a lot of saturated fat. That's about the only two things that I can think of that are bad. Other than that, if they contain soy, you need to make sure that it's organic soy, because sadly they put a lot of pesticides into the soy crops. So if you're planning on going vegan and you always hear that being vegan is expensive, that is not the truth. Truth is, shopping in the produce aisle, it doesn't get too expensive. Where it gets expensive is when you go to the frozen food section. These processed meats, it does get pretty pricey. So I try not to buy them too much, but obviously I got them for the sake of this video. Or I'll stock up like maybe 1 or 2 bags for every month or something like that, you know? I try to go without it. With that being said, let's show you guys the nutrition facts.
Here we have my favorite. It's also the least expensive. If you can see here, we have for every half a cup, we have 60 calories, 0 fat, 0 saturated fat, 0 cholesterol, 210 milligrams of sodium, and 11 grams of protein per serving. The only downside to this one that I just noticed is that nowhere in the bag does it say non-GMO, and it does contain soy. Here we have Morningstar Farms Italian style veggie sausage crumbles. As you can see, it clearly states non-GMO soy. For half a cup, it's 80 calories. It has 2.5 grams of fat from the canola oil, but it doesn't have any saturated fat. It has 0 cholesterol. It has 420 milligrams of sodium, which is on the high level, and it has 12 grams of protein. Here we have our Gardein beefless crumbles, and on this one the serving size is a little different. It's 3/4 of a cup or 87 grams. So I'm gonna do some math for you guys to equally compare it to the other ones. So after we adjust and we subtract the 1/4 cup, calories equals 90. Our total fat is 1.5, and it has no saturated fat, it has 0 cholesterol. And our sodium, after we adjust, it's 270 milligrams, and it contains 12 grams of protein. Also contains soy, but it's specified on the bag non-GMO certified. Here we have our Beyond Beef crumbles, non-GMO certified. For half a cup, our serving size, we have 90 calories, 3 grams of total fat, but no saturated fat. We have 0 cholesterol, 140 milligrams of sodium, and 14 grams of protein. This next one is called Incognito, and it's by Morningstar Farms. Again, we have to adjust the serving sizes to compare to the rest. After we adjust, the calories come out to 130. The total fat is 8 grams, and it has 2 grams of saturated fat. It has about 200 milligrams of sodium, and it contains 10 grams of protein after we adjust the serving size. Now, I do want to say that this one has coconut oil. That's why it has saturated fat, and they're trying to appeal more to the not vegan crowd, the meat eaters. They're trying to replicate actual meat, like they're trying to get it as realistic as possible. And finally, we have our Impossible beefless ground beef. Again, we're going to divide everything in half to adjust the serving size. So this one has 120 calories. It has 7 grams of fat. It has 4 grams of saturated fat, no cholesterol. It contains 185 milligrams of sodium, and it has 9.5 grams of protein. So I stay away from this one because it's the one with the highest saturated fat content. But again, they're trying to appeal more to the non-vegan crowd, the actual meat eaters. They're trying to bring them to the other side. And they do this by trying to replicate the meat to like very close as they can. But unfortunately, they do use the saturated fats, the coconut oils, to try to get that grease in there from, you know, how meat is actually greasy and stuff. So here we have the nutrition facts for 85% lean, 15% fat ground beef. After we adjust the serving size, the calories are 120. We have about 8.5 grams of total fat, 3.5 grams of saturated fat, and 0.5 grams of trans fat, which if you guys didn't know, trans fats are a total no-no. You're also getting around 37 milligrams of artery clogging cholesterol and around 37 milligrams of sodium. No dietary fiber whatsoever, 10.5 grams of protein. Also, unless you're grinding your own meat, you got to take into consideration they're putting the lowest cuts in there, all the leftover stuff they don't want. And that's after they dilute their feed with chicken manure. That's right, you heard that right. They're using chicken shit to bulk up the cow feed. If you don't believe me, look it up. These repulsive tactics are approved by the FDA. So these plant-based meat substitutes can be used for any recipes that call for ground beef. And just look at the ingredients and make sure they don't contain coconut oils or palm oils, because those are the ones highest in saturated fats. Also, these are used for transitioning people. If you guys are curious about plant-based diets or recipes, they're usually more for transitioning into that lifestyle. Usually once you go full in, you can start cutting them out. I also use them because they're convenient. Usually when you go to parties and they don't have vegan foods there, they're like my go-to. You could just throw them into a pan and make some tacos. With that being said, I'm gonna use them for some of my recipes coming up, because I do have to use them because I already bought them.
And yeah, I hope I was able to teach you guys something today. Thank you. Hope you guys enjoy.